back, let's learn a little more about how we can apply this kind of information to ourselves. And one of the things that occurs to me is that people in my business as a marriage and family therapist will often have questions about how to recognize if they're in the right relationship with someone, or how do I spot somebody who might be compatible for me, and how might this kind of information be useful in that sense?
Well, something I noticed when I first met my husband, I thought we look very similar to each other. And 34 years later, I can still say we still look similar to each other. And what we do look for is similarity. And I know sometimes we say the opposites attract, but the chances of having less challenges in a relationship will be if there's similar width of face, similar interests, similar hair thickness. I'm talking about a strand of hair, how thick or how fine or how coarse it is, similar tolerance and similar intellect. And we have about 5 different areas which we identify when we're going through creating profiles for people. And we explain the differences. And when people have these charts in front of them, it gives them a blueprint to look at. And they can see what are the challenges and what are the strengths in the relationship. And I've had a couple who came in recently who were thinking about, well, they were separated. And they came in and having had their profiles create this chart for them, they then looked at the charts and were able to explain, well, look, here are the differences. This person is the leader. This person who likes to be in charge of something. This person's more in the background. This person feels less confident. This person is much more confident. And it explains the differences and also explains the areas in which they have compatibility. And so we encourage them to look at these charts and to help them to understand each other. And they can get through many of the challenges that they come across in their married life.
That's a wonderful application. So sort of like, when I think though, the first thought that comes to me is I look very different from my partner. So I'm like, uh-oh, he's an Italian, big brown eyes, very different looking than I am, a big guy. And but I'm sure that if we were to do a profile, we'd find some similarities as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it would explain, it just explains why someone's this way and why someone's that way. And say why one person's tolerant, why one person isn't as tolerant. And that can be a challenge in a relationship. When people know this is something that it's genetic, we were born with this. Now we have something we can deal with.
Well, I think it's true that information does breed tolerance.
Yes.
I mean, knowing a thing allows you to depersonalize and say, well, maybe the stubbornness this person has isn't about me.
Right.
But it's sort of about their makeup.
Yes.
Let's take a look at a face, and let's see another face, and let's see what you see with that. Oh, he's handsome. Tell us what you see there.
Well, the first thing I see is his chin. I mean, it really stands out. Several things stand out, but his chin is very square. So this is somebody who really has a lot of energy in that chin. He's very, loves debate. Debate.
Oh, debate.
Debate,
okay.
Yes. And I would suggest for him to probably get into some form of martial arts or somewhere where he has an outlet for that energy. Reminds me of Gerard Depardieu.
Yeah.
The high forehead would indicate somebody who has high intellect, enjoys the abstract, enjoys abstract thoughts and ideas and concepts. And at the same time, he's also extremely analytical. He likes to ask a lot of questions. He likes to know the how and the why of how things work.
What about in terms of relationship style? I mean, do you think he looks like somebody who would be open to being compatible in a relationship in terms of being tolerant or friendly or supportive? Or
he's going to be very tolerant, very friendly. He's very people-oriented, fun to be with. He's going to have a very quick wit, quick to think, quick to respond in the moment. And he would need somebody possibly who's a little quieter than himself, where it would support who he is, and vice versa.
Because someone you're talking about somebody, you're describing somebody with a very strong personality. So, yeah, maybe if you got someone just like himself, you'd have a competitiveness.
Yes, I had somebody who came into me, actually, they flew up from Los Angeles, who looked just like him. Okay. And explain the differences. The couple were able to understand each other better and say, oh, this isn't some quirk that you have. It's something that's there, and this is how we can deal with it.
Yeah, and this is how maybe we can work around it if we need to.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of another application I could think of would be teaching. in terms of teaching children, or even teaching adults. I'm a college instructor as well, and I would guess that knowing this kind of information would make you a better instructor, because everybody's learning style is probably a little different.
That's right, it is. And it's really interesting. I was recently in England, and of course when I was on the tube train, I'd be there watching people watcher, and could watch them quite freely. And I noticed that there was a lot of people there who had a more vertical forehead rather than a slope back curved forehead, like the man who was on the previous subject. And the vertical foreheads are much more sequential thinking. And if they miss a step in the middle of it, of being told something, they completely shut down and they don't hear the rest of the information. And think, oh, I must be stupid, I can't think of what it is.
Okay.
But once they get that step, they understand it. And there's nothing to do with intelligence, it's to do with our thinking style. Whereas the person with a more sloped forehead is quick to think, quick to respond, and loves to cram at the last moment.
Okay.
And jumps to conclusions, doesn't always get all the details.
Okay.
And so it's a difference in the way of learning. And yes, a narrower-faced person building up their confidence. They gain their confidence through knowledge.
Oh, okay.
Whereas a wider-faced person has all the confidence in the world, will take on anything. So understanding their approach to new situations, so the narrow-faced person, if he or she is approaching a new situation, there's a fear inside of them that they don't know.
Okay, well, you know what occurs to me as you said that, is that when I look at our sort of national standard of female beauty,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
we're talking about, fairly anorexic women, actually.
Yes.
And I'm wondering with that sort of, which is like, I think 1% or 5% of natural body type anywhere, but that's sort of held up as normal or the attainable. What does that look, that kind of sunken cheek, very thin, what kind of trait is that promoting for women?
Lack of self-esteem in some ways, because the thinner they get, the narrower you are, and perhaps it's less confident you may feel. Now, for some reason, that seems to be beautiful.
Ah,
But
isn't
you know,
that interesting?
when we create these profiles for people, we're accessing them to their energies. There's an innate rhythm, there's innate balance and harmony to each person's life, and we call it 65 different energies.
Oh, wow.
And when we put people in contact with that energy, there's a sense of feeling at one with oneself. It's like people being in a career they don't enjoy. And as soon as we say, well, here's a suggested career for you. Say somebody's an engineer. So I met a girl once who parents had encouraged her to be an accountant. And she said, I'm not happy. And within one session, we were able to say, well, here's the career that's more suited for you. Oh, I'd always thought about that. That's what I really want to do. So it puts people in touch with a part of themselves that maybe they've denied for a long time. Another story is an engineer who came to me. He said, am I in the right job? I see a lot of engineers. And we did his profile, and what came out of that was, yes, engineering was great for him, but he neglected the more creative side of his life. And I had suggested photography. And about a month or so later, I met up with him, and he said, oh, this is absolutely fantastic. I didn't know how much I missed this. So, you know, areas like that we're opening up for people to see. We know at a gut level, we know, but somehow we get caught up in this commercial world, and with the jobs in and out, and the less security of the job.
Well, that's an important point. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The more you have to struggle at a survival level, I mean, the less access you do have.
That's right.
To kind of that intuition. I lead a group based on Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a wonderful book. And part of what she talks about is really listening to that inner part that's telling us what we need to know.
That's right.
We just aren't listening.
We're not.
You know?
And we've never been encouraged to listen. Because what happens, you go through school, and you go through school, you go to college, you get a job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way we do it. And the parents say, well, why don't you try this? And students and people change their careers 7 to 10 times. So there's a lot of confusion out there.
It sure is.
So this brings clarity to the confusion.
Okay.
And it validates a lot of what people know already. And it isn't any touchy-feely thing, it's something that is real. And people leave feeling revalidated, once they have gone through this process of having a consultation with us. And what we're offering is to help people get in touch with a part of that they knew was there, but it gives them a clearer direction.
Well, and it sounds like, and they hadn't maybe articulated it.
That's right.
Let's take a look at one more face,
okay,
and see what you see.
Well, here we can see the exposure of the eyelids, and that reminds me of Hillary Clinton as well. If you look at her, her eyelids are fairly exposed.
Yes.
They like to get to the bottom line. Never mind the questions, get to the bottom line. What are you trying to say? And they're very action-driven. He's also, his features tend to be fairly sharp there in the sharpness of his nose, so he notices detail quite a bit. He picks up detail. It could be numbers. It could be very good with numbers. He could be an accountant, or somewhere where detail is needed. And he loves the applause. He likes to be recognized. He has a lot of face further forward on his ears, so he loves to be recognized and the applause that goes with that.
Well, it looks like he's got that slope forehead you were talking
Yes,
about. So this
very
is
quick to
somebody
think.
who likes to, quick-witted, and likes to, you had mentioned, maybe doesn't even need all the facts to make a decision.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Well, I'm
Very
listening.
good.
All right. Okay, well, in terms of your practice, I mean, you say you do testing. What does that mean? Is that paper pencil testing? Does that mean you measure people? What do you do?
Well, what we do is we chart a person's face, and it's given not a score, but it's just a number that we put on a chart, and that goes into the computer system. And it tells us how much a trait is developed. Say somebody has a very hooked nose, well then that's administrative, and so it's a very highly developed trait. And so we enter all these 65 different traits into the computer system, and it comes up with, it clusters those traits into career matches. And so it will give people about 5 or 6 different careers they can go into. And there's usually 1 or 2 that say, yes, I've always wanted to do that. Or the other day, I met someone and said, well, yes, I've done all those things.
Huh.
And so for people who are looking for job changes, it helps to give them direction. For people who are, say, maybe retiring, well, what am I going to do now? Or someone who wants to get in touch with more of the creative side, it helps to give them a direction as well.
Okay, we're going to need to close, but your consultation business is in Los Altos.
That's right, it is.
Okay, and we can find you, Naomi Tickle, in Los Altos. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. This is very interesting. Thank you for tuning in. Join us next week as we take a close look at women's empowerment through politics. I'm Mary Crocker Cook. Good night.
For topic suggestions, write to Bay Area Psychology at 1723 Hamilton Avenue, Suite A, San Jose, California 95125, or call at 408-448-0333.